everybody, so welcome back. So in this video, we're gonna talk a little bit about medical collections, how they affect you. You know, medical collections is something that everybody has.
Yeah.
We're all human. It's inevitable that at some point in time, we're gonna go ahead and go to the hospital. We get sick, we get hurt, so we gotta get taken care of. You know, one thing that I wanna point out before I pass it on to Justo is that one thing to keep in mind is that medical collections is something that impacts everybody and it can affect you greatly.
Yeah.
Hospitals or doctors are not gonna put your credit report, put that information on your credit report. But what they do is they send that off to a debt collection agency, and the debt collection agencies are the ones to go ahead and put that on your credit report.
The HIPAA.
The HIPAA. Now, here's how it works. With HIPAA laws, good thing that he pointed that out, is that when you're in the dispute process, keep in mind that with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you can challenge the accuracy of what's on your credit report. So with that being said, when you go ahead and fire off a dispute letter asking for information or for proof as to whether you owe that third-party debt collector or not, HIPAA laws protect your medical records. And so in the process of validating or proofing, they don't have access to that unless you sign off on that. So that just makes it a little bit more easier, or there's more of a gray area when it comes to removing those negative items off of your credit report. Now, going back a little bit, the new FICO scoring model is FICO score model 9, which does not factor in medical collections or paid collections or judgments. So with that being said, you know, that's a good thing. Everybody has good credit on a FICO scoring 9 model. But the bad thing is that the banks of today are not using the latest FICO scoring model. So with that being said, they are using FICO score model 8, 4, 5, and unfortunately, a debt collection, whether paid or not, is still negative on your credit report. Now, as a credit repair company, what are some of the things that you face when it comes to medical collections?
Well, I'll tell you this much. You know, there's a range between what actually the success rate that we have when it comes to actually disputing an account, and for the most part, medical collection that has been in your credit report for, let's say, a year, 2 years, even further than that, that's the highest success rate that anyone challenging information. And the only reason why it's because, remember, the hospital cannot collect after it's gone into a charge-off status. It's gonna get sold to a collection agency, and for the most part, they cannot sell your personal information. And under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it goes back to that. Everything has to be verifiable, complete, and accurate. And because of that, I would say that medical collections is not only one of the most, and I don't like to use the word easy, but it is the most easiest, I guess, if I could say. Highest success rate, of probability when it comes to actually looking for discrepancies, challenging the information, and getting it deleted off of your credit report. So in this particular case, when it comes to medical and hospital bills, just please know, because I've gotten a lot of people that have came up to me and be like, Justo, what's gonna happen if I don't pay these bills, or are they gonna take me to jail? No, that's not gonna happen.
It's crazy. It's not.
It's just the same thing. It's gonna happen the same thing as it happened to a Macy's account or a Home Depot account. It went through 180 days. It got charged off. It's gonna go through a process. Could they go ahead and put that as a collection? Absolutely. That's exactly what you're getting. Does it mean that once we go ahead and delete that from your credit report, are you liable for that debt? Well, that's something else also to explore into, which obviously we want to go ahead and touch on today. But as of the probabilities of information being deleted, hospital bills is right on top of the list.
Now, you know, just so that people could get a grasp or an idea as to how that works, when you're writing a dispute letter to challenge a medical collections, in a general aspect, what is it that you're asking for?
Well, we're gonna ask for details, man. You know, the more detailed you are and the less information they have to be able to provide, the higher the probability of success. So in a sense, it's just like everything else. Anytime that account goes into a charge-off status, what's gonna be sold is gonna be the bill of sale. And the bill of sale is basically like a sales receipt, right? And again, it goes back to all these rules and regulations. They have to go ahead and provide detailed information. So when we ask for something, we're gonna try to get as specific as possible. First date of delinquency, we're gonna go into not only with regards to the balances of the information, because a lot of the times people are like, well, no, I did go to the hospital, but how much do you know you actually went ahead and spent? Did you remember seeing the receipt that it said this, and now when they're collecting, is it the same amount? Well, that's something that we need to go ahead and request, because keep in mind, guys, you're the ones that have the access. It's your right to find out what the details are in that account. A lot of the times people try to collect and you're like, oh yeah, it's 400. Okay, let me go ahead and pay off 200 because they only want 50%. How do you know it was $200?
Exactly.
How do you know it's $400? You know what? It might have been $329 and they're tagging on all these other things. It's your right to go ahead and find out about this information.
Exactly.
And that's what we try to do when we go ahead through the dispute aspect of it. We're going to try to get as detailed as possible because that's exactly where the success comes in, man.
Now, I know we fast forward into how to, challenge or understand a little bit more of the collection side. But one of the things that you guys can start doing to prevent that, however, is one, look into your insurance company. Kind of look over as to what it is exactly that they covered. Just so you could get a brief idea as to, what you can expect to pay or what your balance is, depending on whether it's a regular visit, something like an operation or whatever the case may be. Another thing that you can do to prevent it, and I know this is a little bit more, detailed, but it might help in the long run, is that every time you go to a doctor's visit, ask for an itemized bill. Yeah. That itemized bill that breaks down, okay, this costs $400. Yes. Break down as to what is it that I'm paying and match that to what your insurance provider does. Because a lot of the cases, you may not know you have a hospital collection until it's too late. Yeah. You don't get a warning. You kind of get a letter from the debt collector already at the end. Yep. But at the end of the day, how do you know there's mistakes that happen? So what if they're trying to collect on something that your insurance company was supposed to pay?
That's a big thing when it comes to that too. A lot of people are not really aware of what their insurance company actually supposed to go ahead and cover. And that's where a lot of people kind of like, in a sense like, well, you know what? I went to the doctor. This was supposed to have been this type of transaction. It ended up running $10,000 and people are like, well, I'm supposed to go ahead and pay that. Look at your deductibles. Yeah. Look at what the clauses of what that insurance card says.
Exactly.
Because in this particular case, you could avoid a lot of fees when it actually comes to information landing on your credit report or being sold to the collection agencies. Because a lot of the times too, we just sign receipts, man. It happens to me. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's just like everything else. We go into like somewhere, we go have dinner and it's like we don't even look at the receipt. We just go ahead and sign off. How do we know if that's even accurate?
Keep in mind that the people working at that doctor's office or the hospitals are human too.
Absolutely.
There is that, gap of, possibility of human error. So, double or triple checking what you got treated for and what's supposed to be paid or not is, another thing that you guys can do is, once you get this hospital collections, I would even go back to the original clinic, doctor, or hospital and ask them, hey, can I get a copy or what is it exactly that you sent off to my insurance company?
Yes.
Then call your insurance company and ask, okay, can we go one by one as to what is it that you guys are paying for? And then again, get some documentation from that end and use that as leverage to be able to fight any debt collection and say, hey, you wasn't supposed to collect on this. This was supposed to be paid for the insurance or whatnot.
Just to go ahead and add on to that, because I'll be honest with you, for the most part, when it comes to actually disputing, there's going to be two things, right? There's a financial aspect of it, which obviously is what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about our obligation. And there's also what's being reported. Once the account has gone into a charge-off status, the hospital stopped collecting, it goes into a collection agency, or the collection agency buys that debt, and then they try to go ahead and collect. If we're able to go ahead and challenge that, which at the end is what we talked about early in the conversation, there's a high success rate when it comes to deleting these accounts because what they're buying is the bill of sale. So really what that means is that, and just to go ahead and touch upon that, because when they go ahead and buy the debt, what they're buying is the bill of sale. It's like a sales receipt, right?
Right.
So in a sense, it doesn't mean that once the information, or we find some sort of discrepancy with regards to what's actually being reported and that information gets deleted, it doesn't mean that that information is gonna go ahead and just fizzle away, or I no longer have to go ahead and be obligated to pay it.
Exactly.
Because obviously we were able to find the discrepancy. That's what went ahead and got us the information needed to go ahead and delete that information. But guess what? That's still there. And it's what I tell people. There's two things on credit. There's a financial aspect of it,
right,
and there's also what's being reported. What's being reported is what's impacting your scores, not the balance. Once the account has gone into a dark side, I like to go ahead and say that, it's always gonna be in the dark side.
Right.
So really, in a sense, it's like, if it's already bad and I go ahead and pay it, is that gonna improve my scores? No. Right. And that's usually what, and it's like everyone else, like myself included, we thought that. But what we try to do is that we try to go in there We try to do an investigation. We try to find the discrepancies. We try to go ahead and remove it. Because guess what? Now that gives us leverage. Leverage that in a case that they go ahead and subpoena us, they sue us, guess what? I have found a discrepancy. I have found a mistake. And that right there counts for something, guys.
Exactly. And at that point, you can leverage the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which
Absolutely.
we've talked a lot of times. So at the end of the day, what's really happening is what these debt collectors are actually getting are a bill of sale with limited amounts of information. And what happens then, as you may know already, is that they call you to verify you are who they're actually trying to reach.
Absolutely.
They're not going to tell you things like your personal information over the phone. They're going to ask you to verify. They're going to tell you things like, you know what? Why don't you give me the information before I tell you even more?
Yes.
Can you verify your address for me? And little things like that to get to verify you are who you are, because again, what they're getting is a limited amount of information.
That's one thing too, and it's also the videos that you've done in the past, especially with Daniel Tan, the consumer attorney. Obviously, check those out. He talks about that, red flags, companies that usually go ahead and call you, wanting you to verify information. Obviously, just don't provide that. You know, if obviously you're getting those harassing phone calls, let them know, listen, take me off the do not call list. Stop calling me. Whatever you have to go ahead and say, send it over to me in writing. That's the number one key thing right there, guys. So again, be looking out for that. Know that, there is hope. If you guys have any questions with regards to any medical collections, just know too, because obviously, and again, I spoke about this before, you can't go to jail. You're not going to go ahead and some crazy stuff's going to happen. It doesn't happen like that.
No.
So there's a process of operation. The worst thing that can happen is that you're going to eventually go ahead and get a judgment. That can also go ahead and get it disputed. But regardless of the fact, medical and hospital bills, once they've gone into a charge-off, they've gone into collections, that can be challenged, that can be disputed, that can be deleted, and your scores don't have to suffer before it.
Always a solution. And again, stay on top of your information, stay on top of these things, because they don't, you're not going to realize it until it's too late. So just to reiterate what we talked about in this video, first things first, make sure you check with your insurance company and actually find out what it is that they're paying for. What can you expect your balances to be for, any type of treatment? Make sure you keep in touch with your primary, provider, either it be the doctor or the hospital, and get yourself an itemized bill breaking down what that cost is. This is going to save you a lot of money in the long run and a lot of headaches in the future of any debt collectors or any companies that may try to take advantage of you. At the end of the day, also, FICO score model 9 does not factor in hospital bills. But the thing is that the FICO scoring models of today, what the banks are using today, are older versions, meaning that whether it's paid or not, hospital bills still affect you negatively, even if they're as small as $20, $30, $60. And at the end of the day, you always want to go back to the original creditor and maybe work out a payment plan that's going to benefit you in the long run, as long as they remove that negative information or take it back from the debt collection agency.
Well, it's exactly what you were talking about. If it's still in the hospital, if it's still in the wherever it's at, and if you could address it, if you get the receipt, if you get some sort of bill, it's a small balance, guys. Take care of it. I've seen a bunch of people with $32, $65, $95. Instead of that impacting your credit, impacting your scores, and that coming in as a collection, just handle that. There's payment arrangements. There's a bunch of things that you can go ahead and do.
With the original creditor.
Absolutely. And again, this is for everyone else out there. If we want you guys to go ahead and honor your debts. This is not something that we're trying to shy off. But if you've already gone into that side, that guess what? Maybe life hit you and you were not able to go ahead and take care of that. There is hope, and this is what we're trying to obviously just let everybody know. At the end, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
And one of the worst things that you can actually do, and the reason why collection companies actually move forward with wage garnishments or suits or something like that, is because you do not respond back. So respond back with a dispute letter, with a validation of debt, with actually some kind of proof. Don't just stay quiet or hidden or not answer any phone calls. If you get a phone call and as a debt collector, don't give any information, but that should be your cue as to start researching as to what it is that they're trying to collect for, getting your documentation in place to fire that off over to them and get that removed or finally stop those harassing debt collection
That's
calls.
another thing too, and I wanted to go ahead and add to that. I've had a lot of people that told me, well, you know what, I just tell them this is so-and-so, or maybe, this is not the right number. just let them know, listen, you have that right, guys. If, guess what, you're calling me right now, I'm not going to provide anything to you. And you have the right to let them know to take me off the do not call list. And you know what? Send me everything in writing.
Right.
Okay, to where? Whatever information you have on file, that's exactly where you're going to send it. Please don't call me anymore, because some people think that, guess what, I'm going to make up some stuff and that's what's going to, like, you know, prevent people from calling me. No, they're going to call you probably again, or they're going to call somebody else until you tell them that. So you have that.
Make
Let
sure
them
you
know
got
about that.
Recorded, you telling them that recorded, and them acknowledging you, because if they do call again, that's in violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and you're entitled to some money, if not even remove the count.
Absolutely.
So I have a video on that that's called Collect from the Collectors, you know, as far as, you know, collecting from them and using that to your advantage. So other than that, guys, that pretty much sums up hospital bills in a nutshell. Again, just do your research, understand that, you know, these are things that happen, but that there is a solution at the end of the tunnel. Other than that, guys, feel free to call Justo for a free evaluation on your credit at no obligation to get a better understanding on what's on your credit report.
And again, guys, if it doesn't make sense, if it's something that's not clear, if you have any questions before you take the next actions, let us know. We offer a free credit evaluation, and we're literally just giving you as much information as possible so that you're able to make that educated decision. Thank you so much again, Ray, for obviously allowing me to be part of the channel, man. Thank you so much. And we hope to help a lot of people, man.
All right. So until then, stay real, keep it humble, and I'll see you next week on Keeping It Real.
Yo.
Peace.